The ground was cold, and darkness surrounded me. However, the dim light of a torch burning in the distance illuminated the area. Not much could be seen. There were 2 copper daggers. I tried to stand up, but it felt like I didn't have the strength. What had happened to me? The last thing I remembered was a pair of red eyes and a lot of dust. I forced myself to get up and attempt to reach the daggers, but in vain. My legs were here, but I couldn't feel them. Despite my persistent efforts to stand, I kept collapsing to the ground each time. I realized there was no hope, and crawling was my only option. I crawled toward the daggers, and as my hand approached them, an unexpected square appeared before me, pulsating in red light. Lost in my struggle, I hadn't paid attention to the text on it. It said, "This is a trap." Panicked and fearful, I reached for the dagger, questioning the nature of the flying square. With a sense of horror, I swung the dagger toward the square, but it passed through it. Within seconds, I heard mechanical noises, and with a loud crash, something fell onto me. Before I could comprehend what had happened, the square had vanished, and inexplicably, I found myself trapped, with the added horror of distant sounds approaching. In this predicament, the only silver lining was the presence of the daggers beside me. The torch barely illuminated the surroundings, making it impossible to discern what was coming. The approaching figures must have been human. Their silhouettes resembled human forms. There were 2 of them, one robust, the other slender. They walked towards me, rubbing their hands together. One of them, on the firearg, was turning some kind of wheel, and I could see a cage slowly rising on it. Despite the cacophony we had made, the surroundings were filled with strange shadows, and their sinister grins were no longer visible. Clinging to the daggers, I realized my only option was to crawl, albeit slowly, towards the source of the sounds and shadows. Despite my intense fear, I continued crawling in the direction of the approaching noises. My eyes remained shut, and I could only feel myself moving forward. The sounds of knives and incantations from the 2 individuals echoed in my ears as they yelled. Many things passed by me, and I sensed their presence, but fear kept my eyes closed. I continued crawling. A sudden brightness struck my eyelids, prompting me to open my eyes. Finally, I was outside, in a mountainous region. The sky was bright, but the sun was setting. Thus, I couldn't understand the meaning of it, but trusting my instincts, I took the torch and lifted it towards the sky. What I saw was unsettling. It was a contraption tied with ropes, and the ropes were leading toward a cage just above the daggers. While questions about the flying square that appeared before me lingered in my mind, questions like what it was, why it helped me, I saw the square again, this time in blue, with the word reward written on it. Desperately, I reached out, and it felt like my hand passed through it. Withdrew in fear, but in my hand, there was a bottle containing a white liquid. What was happening here? What was I experiencing? While contemplating what to do with the bottle, I heard noises. My feet still wouldn't support me. In panic, I rubbed the torch against the ground and the wall to extinguish it, but all I achieved was making more noise. The sounds grew louder. My only option was to believe in the flying square that saved me from the trap and to drink the concoction it provided. As I drank, a sudden warmth surged within me, as if I were on fire but without pain. I realized I could move my feet, and beyond that, I felt like I could almost fly. As soon as I stood up, I set my eyes on the daggers, confident in myself, grabbed them in one swift motion, and began to run swiftly through the other dark tunnel. There was a lot of noise, and the sounds were increasing. Even the torch in my hand, illuminating the surroundings, seemed unable to keep up with my speed. Without looking at anything, I just kept running, disregarding the strange noises and apparitions. There was light ahead. That could be my only chance for salvation. I ran until I threw myself into the light, and finally, I was outside. I found myself in a mountainous region. The sky was bright, but the sun was preparing to set.